I quit my job on March 11th, 2022, completely burnt out, no backup plan. 2 years later, the plans have only just started, the burnout has lessened, and I trust myself more than ever before. Hi, I'm Alexis, now a full-time artist here in New York City, which feels wild to say because for the longest time I would joke that art was for my next life. And it wasn't until I left a truly harmful job that I began to believe that art is absolutely a possibility for this life of mine. I am someone who always has a backup plan. I have a plan A and B, but I also have a plan C, D, and E. When I left my career of more than 15 years, I stepped into the completely unknown with very little security. I left behind health insurance, a consistent paycheck, and the most significant source of income for myself and my husband. I had $10,000 in savings and a fledgling art business. It was absolutely terrifying. Up to this point in my life, I had always followed the rules of the generations who came before. I was the first in my family to go away to school. I was the first to earn a master's degree. And I went straight into the workforce after graduation. No gap year, no experimentation. I did exactly what the capitalist leaders of America designed for our path to be. I had bought into the idea espoused by my elders that I was to find an employer with whom I could grow old. I would dedicate my working hours to them, and in turn, I would receive a retirement. But as the years passed, it never added up. I began to realize that my loyalty to my job was not reciprocated, and all that I had been sold was smoke and mirrors. For the first half of my life, I was a teacher. For more than 15 years, I spent my days teaching young people how to read and write and compute, how to be good community members, and working alongside young people, helping them navigate relationships, learning to be active, kind members of a community was by far the most rewarding. For more than 15 years, I spent my days pouring into the lives of others and supporting the school in a variety of ways, often outside of my job description and in capacities that were above my pay grade, because I truly believed that my loyalty meant something and that my loyalty would be met with loyalty. And you know, it was, until it wasn't. I have so much to say about our education system and its current state and my experience, and I don't know, maybe I'll share some of that in future videos, but for this one, I really want to stay focused on the leaving, the how and why of it, and what came next. And I know that oftentimes it's hard to understand how industries relate to one another. I don't believe that my experience is unique to that of a teacher. I truly believe that it is a universal experience to those who have dedicated their life and really believed in the work that they're doing, who have sacrificed themselves for their job, only to realize later that perhaps we were going about it the wrong way. In the height of lockdown, in the spring of 2020, I began to understand that my time in the classroom was drawing to a close. So I had given myself 2 to 5 years to finish strong and to build a path forward so that I had something to step into when that transition came to pass. But here's the thing, that timeline drastically shifted. In July of 2021, I went to urgent care for a COVID test after an exposure. And as my blood pressure was taken, I was informed that it was alarmingly high. In fact, her exact words were, "You are near a cardiac emergency. If it were any higher, I would send you immediately to the ER." She told me that it was a necessity to immediately find a way to reduce the stress in my life. She made it sound very easy, and I told her that sure, I would get right on that as a teacher in the middle of a pandemic, but she very seriously made me promise to keep an eye on it. And then in August, I began to experience panic attacks, and I had never experienced a panic attack quite like these before. They would literally take my breath away. They would happen before and after the work days, but then with increasing frequency, they were happening in the middle of my workday, where I would find myself in the bathroom with mere seconds to compose myself before my kids came back. I had a deep knowing that I was in grave danger. This sense of impending doom, which I have since learned is a legit thing in the medical world, only grew the longer I stayed. And listen, I'm not a dramatic person. Passionate? Yes. But dramatic? No. And I don't embellish. So it came as a complete shock when one night in January of 2022, I sat on my couch with my husband and I told him that if I did not make it, I wanted him to go on and find someone else to live a full and happy life. But like, what? In what world is it appropriate for an otherwise previously healthy 38-year-old woman to tell her husband that if her job kills her, he should go on and live a full life? The moment those words escaped my mouth, I knew that it was wrong. I knew that my loyalty was ill-placed. Why was I willing to sacrifice myself for a job? And then, on a Friday in February, I had a stroke event that left the top right quadrant of my face without feeling. I put in my 2 weeks the following week. Put in my 2 weeks today, 15 years in a classroom, and after March 11th, I will no longer be a teacher. I don't know what's next, but I'm hoping it's something really good. Even with all of these very severe health issues that were arising, I had this deep guilt of leaving. I had this sense of failure, that I had to quit, that I couldn't tough it out. I like to ask the universe for confirmation that things are gonna be okay, that I'm on the right track. And the week after I put in my 2 weeks, I ended up at a Lenny Kaye birthday celebration in Bowery, and he sang a Weatherman Prophet song called Naked as the Day. And in that song, there's a lyric along the lines of, sometimes you have to make a big decision, otherwise your body starts to die. I have never before and never after had a song lyric hit me as hard as that one did, and it was in that moment I knew I had made the right choice. It was all of the confirmation that I needed. And so, on March 11th, 2022, I left my career of nearly 2 decades. And since then, I've grappled with the guilt of having stayed so long, staying even after my body was screaming that it was time to go. I've had to process the trauma of the health issues, and financially, it's been difficult, but we've found ways to make it work. I always had this idea that if you were a full-time artist in New York, you had you must have family money. You had some sort of trust fund, if you will. And I come to realize that that's not always the case, and you sacrifice and you make it work. We eat a lot of spaghetti. We still don't have health insurance. However, no matter how difficult this transition has been, I have a deep gratitude for the ability to rebuild, for the life that is still yet to unfold, for what's to come. There are those of us who have been sold a lie about the importance of our loyalty to our job, and it's crumbling. We are realizing that we are so much more than how we pay our bills. We are our passions, our joys, our relationships. And moving forward, no matter what happens, I'm loyal to myself. I'm learning how to hear that voice of intuition again. I'm learning to trust myself and to care for myself so that I can be here and show up for those in my life. I'm learning, if you will, to put my oxygen mask on first. I am, as a dear friend once taught me, learning to take my power back. 2 years out, and not much has changed. But then again, everything has changed. That first year does not count in my timeline. It was a year of deep grief and healing. It was simply a time of finding myself again. We are officially at 1 year of freedom. March 11th was the last time I spent in a classroom, and here we are. I had a whole thing typed up, and then Instagram glitched and it got tossed, and maybe that's not meant to be shared here. All I know is that because of your support of Paper for the People, I believe that this is possible. I am all in, and I am doing what I always wanted to do, but would joke about being for my next life. Y'all have made it possible for this life, and there have been all these energetic shifts within my body over the past year, and I feel like this is the day that last chapter is gone, and this is the day that it's everything is possible. And then that second year, I finally came up for air. I started to envision what I want this life to look like. I started to dream about what's possible. And now, as I enter into this third year, I am hopeful for this second half of my life. This second half as an artist. These days, I still don't have it all figured out, but there is deep peace in the day-to-day and a joy in the figuring it out. There is a deep gratitude to move at a pace that honors my healing and for the ability to breathe. I share all of this in hopes to encourage you to leave a job before it becomes a threat to the longevity of your life. And I share it also in hopes that it might encourage someone who finds themselves in the situation that I did back in March of 2022. It gets better. And I truly believe that if we can find the courage to step into the unknown, we may begin to build a life that honors our humanity and our loyalty to what really matters. I want to thank you for spending your time with me today. I went back and forth on whether or not this might be something that would be helpful to share. I've been really trying to navigate leaving the past in the past, but also acknowledging that it has absolutely shaped me into who I have become. And so I really just hope that this might prove helpful to someone out there. I know that when I was in the process of leaving, I was desperate to hear someone who had been in a similar situation. I think it would have helped my guilt of having stayed so long to where it got so bad. And I think it would have given me a little bit more hope in those days that felt so hopeless. Thanks for being here and for being on this journey. If you are interested in joining me as I am in this process of rebuilding after extreme burnout and just an utter life collapse, if you will, I would be honored if you subscribe to the channel. I'm just here to share my art journey, my love of the city, and all that might entail. But whatever time of day you've watched this, thank you for being here, and I hope it was a kind one. Until next time.